So, hello. We are here today with my sister Minna and Yahya, her husband, to have a little talk about how the different art scenes in America and Europe and Asia are standing to each other, or the differences, the oppositions. For the beginning, I would like them to introduce themselves with where they come from, why they are in Austria now, and what is their history in art.
Well, I lived in New York for the last 6 years. I studied acting there, and we came to Austria. It was really not planned, actually, because my visa got revoked while we were on our honeymoon. So I had to go to Austria, and thankfully Yahya came to spend time with me and to move here for now. But we will talk about that later. My background is acting, and I started a theater company in Brooklyn. We did a bunch of performances. We actually renovated a basement, so we built a black box theater there.
In Brooklyn. No?
In Brooklyn, yeah. I worked on several independent projects, film projects. I actually lived in LA as well for half a year. I did some film projects there. And it's a big issue in the States if you're foreign that you don't have a green card. I think that was... And that I still have an accent for acting, that is sometimes very hard. But
if there wouldn't be a ban now for you, for the States, basically you could have a green card as far as I know.
Yes, now that we got married, I am able to apply. I would be able to apply for a green card, but...
maybe we go deeper into this a bit later.
Yeah, I think I will explain the whole situation.
Yeah, cool.
Hi, my name is Yahya Masai James. I'm from Harlem, New York City. I'm a performer, dancer, acrobat. I started as a street performer, and I ended up doing many different jobs, from traveling to working for Cirque du Soleil to starting a company based in street and acrobatic and free movement called Brooklyn Zoo in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, New York.
And actually, like, with which discipline you started out your moving?
So the first one I would...
History or like story?
My whole history with movement, I remember as just like a little kid, around like maybe 7, 8 years old. And I would go to family reunions to see other family members. And every time I would go, my family would get together, they would drink, talk a whole bunch of shit. Then there'll be a big little circle that'll open up, mainly from always started with my cousins. And the family would begin to play capoeira. So
I think we got to know one of your cousins in your wedding.
Yeah, that was Yahya. Yeah. That was the other one, yeah.
Yeah, but you told me that you learned stuff from him when you were...
Yeah, well, no, her brother was the first one. His name is Mamadou, God rest his soul. He was, he passed away some years ago. But he was my biggest inspiration because at that time, him being a family member, and he was also a b-boy and a capoeirista. And then once he saw that I was heavily interested into the movement, and at that time I was taking a lot of gymnastic classes to clean up my tumbling, everything just meshed into one world. His name is Mamadou.
Mamadou. Yes, and maybe you want to tell us a little bit about why you are here now. And
Are you here, girl?
So we had a really crazy situation. We got married in October, and they also came to our wedding, which was really lovely.
He cooked. He was a chef.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Everybody said good food.
How many people? For like
80,
over like 100 almost.
Something like that.
Yeah. We had a really wonderful wedding actually in Yahya's gym. It has a beautiful rooftop.
Beautiful place.
Bogart House.
Bogart House in Williamsburg, Brooklyn.
Great place to practice here in New York.
I think one of in the whole world basically.
Yeah, we got a club, and then downstairs is everything that you can do within acrobatics, from trampoline, spring floor, dance floor, parkour structures, tricking, and everything in American Ninja Warrior. And that third floor is a club and event space where we got married. And it was
And he basically built up the space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I came to the building when
it's
it was
his
just
concept.
nothing in there, and I knew the landlady from training her children, she was getting really good at trampoline, and she brought me to a big empty building and just kind of presented me with an option of, let's do something cool with it. So that's how that whole thing started back in 2002, 2003. From that first gym, which was the first one in the States to actually cross and mix in gymnastics training with capoeira training, with just dance training and parkour training, because each of those disciplines you always had to go to a different studio. There was never one place that you can go to and get all of them in there. And then from there you had Tempest Academy in Los Angeles. B-Boy Gravity started one in Arizona. There's been a few over here in Europe that I've seen. I've seen one in London myself. It started a movement of just mixing multiple forms of disciplines into one place. Jam is one of them. Jam is really big in California, and I think it's California, but it's joining all movements. Same concept.
It's really good. It's very inspiring for everyone and really push the people to go over their limits of borders. Yeah.
It's a beautiful place, and it's actually the place that I have to say too. I met Yahya the very first time 8 years ago. The first time I came to New York to visit New York. I went out with Susie, with one of my really good friends, and we went to a really cool dance party. And then
I had a party.
Yes, but before we went to Bembe, which is a dance club in Brooklyn, and we danced till 4 in the morning, and then they closed Bembe. And we met like two guys who said like, there's this really cool after party at this gym. And then we came, like we followed them, and then it was basically Yahya's gym, and that's where we met the first time. And that's where we got married.
6 years later.
6 years later. No, 8 years later.
Crazy story.
Yeah.
It's interesting that you are getting married with also a dancer, acrobat, which Elias is also a b-boy.
Yeah.
It's like showing the love of your brother.
I actually, a funny story, I remember the first time Noemi told me that her brother was into the same things that I was into. And I thought it was cool, and I remember like years back just sending a friend request, and then like sending a few messages like, hey, it's really hope to meet you sometime soon. We're both into this. I'm a b-boy from New York and everything, and I'm here with your sister.
Yes.
See how the worlds connect. The worlds connect.
I've had a very, very long history of going out with Yahya and just dancing. We were not a couple for like years, and we would just go out and dance. But anyways, we wanted to talk about how we came to Austria now.
Yes.
So we finally got married in October 10th, because one of the reasons that we got married kind of fast was also that, you know, I could get a green card and work, of course, because we love each other, but that was one of the reasons. And then we went, yeah, same
Kind
here.
of similar.
A practical reason as well. And then we went on a honeymoon in November to Cuba. And while I was in Cuba, I got an email that my visa was revoked and I wouldn't be able to go back to the States.
Without clear explanation.
Yes,
But
no
whatever, we're just
explanation.
going along with the waves.
So that was pretty difficult for us
so
because
crazy.
on our honeymoon we were not be able to return to our home together. So I had to go to Austria. He went back to New York.
With only one backpack of summer clothes.
Oh yeah,
in
that
the
was a
winter.
good point. I arrived in November with like a small backpack full of fucking bikinis in wintertime. That was all I had in Austria. And then I had a visa interview to actually apply for a visitor visa so I could re-enter the States. And at that visa interview, they asked me a lot of questions about my artist itinerary, because if you apply for an artist visa, you have to give them a 3-year itinerary that shows all the projects you're going to do the next 3 years. And as an artist, as you know, like a lot of projects don't happen, a lot of projects don't, like they just fall through. So I was not able to really tell them everything that was on my itinerary, and I said a lot of the projects didn't work out. And then he was asking me about my tax return, and it was just a whole mess. And then they decided that I committed visa fraud, which is ridiculous because I know a lot of artist friends who are on artist visas who did the same thing. Basically, everyone does. Because it's impossible to know as a self-employed artist 3 years in advance what you're gonna do.
Like, I think nowhere in the world it will be possible.
It only works if you
know that.
If you work on a series, or if you
Or
have,
if you pay everything by yourself.
yeah, or if you work on a, if you know you have a contract with a theater for 3 years, then
Exactly. Tell me what you want to do and what you're going to do for the next 3 years. And if you mess up one time, I'm going to kick you back to your country.
Don't even say artist. No one, never. Doctor.
no, it's ridiculous. But that's why they actually banned me. So right now I'm banned from the States. But thankfully I can fight that decision because we are married and I didn't commit a major crime. So hopefully we will be able to go back in maybe a year. But everything turned out pretty crazy because Yahya moved to Austria because I was not able to go back to the States. And then, like, yeah, we had no furniture, no clothes, no nothing. So we had to find an apartment. And then once we had the apartment, Corona crisis started. So it has been a pretty, like, a trip the last few months.
Last few months, heavy trip.
Right.
But going along with the waves of life and seeing the ups and downs, there have been many blessings in disguise that we can actually see and speak of.
Indeed.
Because, you know, for a certain period of time, our mind frames was just stuck on New York City and getting back to New York City. And if we would have got back to New York City, which 30 more days, it turned out to be an epicenter of the coronavirus, I'm sure that would have been highly upsetting too, after wasting thousands of dollars applying for visas to come back to live in a country that we built our life in. So up in
At
the
the
haste,
moment,
we just switched.
we are
and we're
very
here.
blessed to be in Austria actually and like sit right outside here in nature with our family and
And the bees
the bees
Mobs.
And the flowers.
and the deers.
and the ticks. Don't forget the ticks.
So it was a blessing in disguise. And at the end, we are very glad to be here. But it was a very like really difficult few months.
Sucks. She said difficult. We can use other words, can we? I can say sucks.
Yeah, and maybe also Yahya can give us a short impression of Austria.
Okay,
in the start
initially,
now.
should I go ahead now? Initially coming, all right, I've been to Europe many times. I've traveled, again, I was on many different productions. And I also lived in parts of Scandinavia, but initially coming here and coming from what I was used to as the norm, which I come from a very special city. New York City is one of the cities that it rarely shuts down. It's a 24-hour city. You know, 3 in the morning, you can go outside and get whatever you want, food, snacks. So it was definitely a cultural shock for me. I am, along with just being a mover and a performer and someone who likes just movement, I was also heavily into some of the nightlife elements, house music, jams, dance parties, battles, and things of that nature. And coming here, it was a complete just shock for me because one, the party scenes and just culturally it's different. It seemed like I couldn't really find people who just generally liked music and wanted to hear. They would go out with an option of hooking up or I wanted to do, which a lot of people do have those objectives, but I like to hear music and just to dance and move, and actually speaking
Most
to this to other
Austrians
people.
go out to sit down,
They don't like
talk,
it.
and drink
And smoke.
and smoke.
Well, now, moving on to the talking, as you can clearly hear, we're all speaking English. I moved to Vienna, Austria, and some of the first experiences I've had with a language barrier and just getting in tune with some of the nightlife and blending with the cultural indifferences and the peoples has been a little shocking. And I've heard and seen some of the things that were, from my standard of coming from the States, I wanted to jump out of my skin. But again, it's just understanding cultural differences and things that people do in other places and I need to get used to and not have an opinion about as much as I did coming from what I came from.
Yeah, and also it's a little difficult if you like
It's
compare
very difficult,
Austrians
I
to
think,
New
yeah.
York. It's just Austrians are very private people and they're not really open towards strangers.
So
They're-
let me cut her off and just give you an example. Your current day in New York City. It's nice. The weather's nice. You went out. You bought a nice little outfit. You're walking down the street. You feel great. You got a brand new outfit on. It's normal for someone to look at you, and after you notice that they've been looking at you for a while, that they smile, nod, compliment you on whatever reason that they're staring at you for, to alleviate the mystery of what's going on between you two. Over here,
They will just stare at you.
they just stare, don't say anything. It came to the point where I would start to stare back and wave, and then they would just turn around and be shy and scared. And it would bother me because it's like, if you give someone the attention of your eyes and they can visibly see that you're looking at them, but then you reject the attention that they're giving you back to them, it's just kind of
Fucking
weird.
It's weird, but it's like I think most of the cities in the world is like this. The people there are like kind of a little bit scared to interact with strangers, and that is what I feel so nice in New York. The first time when I come to your wedding, that strangers just start to talk with each other, and then once we were in a
But it might be not as weird as in Austria, in a lot of other places,
Yeah.
probably. I mean,
And once we were just in the breakfast shop with our baby, then an old man just start to ask us if we can draw Frau Wurmlinger's face, and it's something that I have never experienced.
Ah,
there.
yeah,
there it is.
it's really
Yeah.
nice encounters you might have.
That's one of the reasons why I really love New York and why I really miss it, is just people, like there's no stranger really, you know, or if you're in the
They don't
subway.
keep every thought in their head. If they see
Yeah, you
something
can
and it
just
makes them
talk to
smile, they will
someone.
convey it, whether it's peaceful or disrespectful.
Yeah.
They will let it off of their brain and do not keep it in their head and just leave you in a state of a mystery, wondering what's going on. Do they like me? Do they hate me? Is he going to attack me? Is it like it just alleviates all of that by simple communication.
Yeah, but here very different. I think in Austria the people are trained to keep things back, and I mean it's just
But that is
Talk about
something.
China.
half as bad as or not even half as bad.
But that's what I
It's
wanted to
China
say.
also.
Like, I would like to ask Wendy, or like you. I mean, Wendy, you know, obviously way more because you were born there.
Yeah.
But like, what is your experience with like Austrian and Chinese communication, or like?
When I come to Austria, I feel amazed that people are saying Grüß Gott or Good Morning to strangers. And then
even to their friends, you know, in China you just might meet someone and you don't barely even
yeah.
say hello,
Yeah,
or
it's like,
you
like
just
this.
leave and you don't say goodbye or anything. It's like it's
So strange.
yeah.
No
it's,
hugs?
for me
No,
it's
no
very
hugs,
weird,
no
you know. But it's
Hey, I'll see you tomorrow. That was a great conversation. We had a great day. We
Just-
we
they
built
might,
on a
my
lot of
friends,
you might not
yes.
even say hello and goodbye.
like
It's
with my
just-
friends who
you're there
come
and you're gone.
from like who were outside, who were studying in Europe, or who have a lot of contact with foreigners, they do hugs. And
Yeah,
stuff.
and
But
if I
normally,
offer it,
no.
like they will do it, and it's nice, it's no problem. But it's rarely that it's. I mean, your friends probably, but
Yeah.
most of the people it's not.
But the ones that are generally there that don't travel or do anything, you don't really see interactions like that. No
No touching.
emotional exchanges.
Emotional exchange.
Like,
Very
how do you get close and when you
rarely.
find like your little partner and you want to go to a room and have sex and all that stuff? Like, when is that?
So I'm wondering.
What? Sorry, can you
Like-
say it slowly?
When you find someone that you like and you want to get past that little not touching stuff and I want to have a family with this person, like, who makes that first move? And is it like,
Are people romantic with each
How
other?
do they get to know each other? Like
Do
to
people?
get
Do
together.
Chinese people flirt?
Normally,
Goes
you go
to karaoke
to the
and
club,
get drunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Get very drunk?
Get very drunken, and then maybe the guy would be brave enough to say something or try to touch your hand. But I mean, this is like what is the most cases, but there's also a lot that is.
ain't no walking down the street and be like, damn, my whole life stopped. I would like to meet Butcher and
That it was still very conservative when I was small about the clothing and stuff. I mean, now my parents are totally used that if I'm dancing half naked or even completely naked. Like in our wedding, we have played a movie that Elias made in the mountain where I was completely naked.
I mean the upper body.
Yeah, the upper body. How many people were in our wedding? 200 maybe? All
So
these
much, I don't know.
200
Yeah, a lot.
friends watched this video together with my parents. So
Yeah. Did they say anything afterwards?
no,
No. Okay.
they are
Yeah.
forced to get used to it.
No, the daughter has been given away. It's no more your choice.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like maybe we talk shortly a little bit about our experiences of the last half year in Asia
Yeah.
and around the world. And actually, this was also the last time, basically, when we all have met. Was in New York for your wedding. That was already during the time when we were gone from Austria for more than half a year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we had like from Macau we went to America for 2.5 weeks to go to your wedding.